for joining, everybody. I'm Euan Stewart. I'm CTO at SoConnect. I'm mainly responsible for our customers' technology and security roadmaps. And one of those things is cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence has become a very prevalent thing now in our industry. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm joined by one of my colleagues, Lee, and one of our security partners, Laurence, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves now. If you want to take over, Lee.
Yep, I'm a senior technical engineer. My role has become more cyber focused, so I deal with a lot of the cyber rollouts and also the alerting and logging of cyber incidents and threats.
Hi, I'm Laurence Keir. I'm, as it says there, Cyber Essential Specialist. I'm here to help advise companies on why Cyber Essentials is there, what they need to do to get it, and all the sort of associated benefits of it.
Right, so we'll just look at a brief history of AI and kind of look at where we're coming from. So yes, where was it? Alan Turing test. Yes, so the imitation game, which you might have seen the movie. And the term artificial intelligence was coined in the 1950s by a group of computer scientists in Dartmouth. So algorithms themselves had been around for quite a long time, all the way kind of back to the 19th century. The practical element of artificial intelligence really started in the 1950s. Into the 1980s, AI research kind of gained increased momentum with a lot of funding being thrown at it by a lot of kind of large computer enterprises. After the space exploration of the 60s and 70s, engineers were looking to mimic human decision-making in computers at that point. So this took some time because computers were still, even though this was the 80s, computers were still fairly primitive, and it was really until the 90s that we get to where computers really kind of start to kick off with things, obviously everybody remembers Windows 95 for people that are here that are young enough, or old enough, I should say, where we look at things like machine learning, where computers start to begin to learn from computer or human responses. So this is a major step in the 90s. Into the 2000s, we really see things really taking off with big data, speech recognition, voice assistants, self-driving cars around in the last kind of 5 or so years starting to be tested. But the big thing really at the moment, which everybody's probably heard of or aware of or heard of it in the news, is something called ChatGPT, which is the latest major advancement in AI in the last year or so. And all of that has kind of had a huge impact and transformation impact on industries, healthcare, finance, entertainment, and what we're here to talk about today, which is cybersecurity. So whilst there's many benefits we use from AI, there's also some downsides, and these are the areas that we need to be aware of and understand so we can make decisions to counter and mitigate these threats as best as we can. Actors are now using AI to assist them to successfully breach and compromise user accounts and systems. Utilizing the speed and automation of AI, they can create deceptive, sophisticated attack methods, which previously was very difficult for a hacker or a team of hackers to create prior to launching a cyber attack on an enterprise. So what that means now is, with the use of AI, the threat actors can now attack multiple enterprises simultaneously, and that matches what we now see in the industry with precipitous attack trends, making it easier for the attackers to attack particularly small businesses, and that's where the risk is. Even though larger corporations obviously have huge IT budgets and security budgets, they're just as susceptible to these threats, these AI threats, as small businesses are. But small businesses can't take the appropriate measures that they need to do without a security advisor or an IT provider such as ourselves. AI enhanced malware. So one of the areas which threat actors are focusing on is creating advanced malware to infiltrate environments and execute malicious payloads such as ransomware, which has been around now for probably 7 or 8 years. And it's still a major problem worldwide, and is the most common way for a threat actor to basically get a massive payout, essentially, for holding a company's data to ransom, seizing operations. There's obviously, when there's larger corporations, it's usually in the headlines in the news. And traditional antivirus solutions are now not capable of detecting these threats, unfortunately, as each malware variant is created now designed to be unique. And this will be known on signature databases that will recognize it and traditionally quarantine the infection. So AI is used by the threat actors to create create viruses, which is not globally known. So the big vendors, you might know kind of AVG, you might know Bitdefender, you might know ESET. There's quite a few others, McAfee, Norton. These are really now starting to struggle to identify these threats when they get onto machines, because of the way that threat actors are using AI to create new kind of strings or variants of malware that eventually end up on machines. The industry trends tell us that malware will continue to be built by threat actors using AI, so they're not going to stop. They're actually going to use it more, because they can utilize the benefits of AI to their goals themselves, to get into machines and to get into systems and to get into user accounts, and it makes it very difficult for security systems and security specialists to counter these methods and make old solutions like antivirus entirely obsolete. I would say probably in the next few years, and we'll talk about how we tackle this going forward in a couple of more slides.
Yep, I'll take over. So AI enhanced phishing techniques. So phishing is in the past had bad grammar, spelling mistakes, or just was worded wrongly. You could tell. But now with things like ChatGPT, people with English, maybe not with their first language, can create emails that look genuine. And the way they do that is through social engineering. So they can scrape Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn to get information on you, your colleagues, where you work, your position, things like that, and create phishing emails that appear more legitimate and relevant to you, the recipient. Also, spear phishing is targeted. So again, they use things like LinkedIn to mimic maybe you're a director in your company. They sent an email to like a finance person saying pay this person, and that's one of the ways to do it. So they've got all that information from either social engineering or through just even your company's page. If they've got a bit about you, then they'll scrape all that to get. And the last thing is deep fake technology. So this is just becoming known to the public now. You've probably seen it on the news. People can create, or AI can create audio and video messages of you. So you can go on YouTube, find a video of you. They can take your image and your voice and create messages from that. It's still a bit primitive, but it's getting there. It will become more advanced as time goes by. So you have to train people to watch out for that. Let's move on to the next slide, Euan. So this is the need for robust cybersecurity. So the things we recommend is get started with Cyber Essentials, use a multi-factor authentication, MFA, use AI to defend against AI, and train your staff on the best practices for cyber security, which we're going to talk about these things now.
And we'll hand over to Laurence now for Cyber Essentials input.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, a bit of background on what this is first. So if you're not familiar with Cyber Essentials already, the key bit, it is a government-backed certification to give you a guideline of a minimum expected standard for your cybersecurity. It covers a few key areas, but it comes from this collaboration with the National Cybersecurity Centre back in 2014. And it's, I suppose, one way to equate it is similar to an MOT for your car, with the idea that there's an annual check which is looking for minimum safety requirements to make sure that you've got something in place and you're not open to an unexpected risk that you're just unaware of. And this comes from most end users aren't aware of the intricacies of cybersecurity themselves. It's something quite daunting, and you need specialists to deal with. So this just helps with getting the basic understanding that if you can implement some standard security practices, you will reduce your risk. And this comes from, so the initial expectation was to be able to reduce the effectiveness of common attacks by 80%. And there was this University of Lancaster study that actually showed it protecting over 99% of attacks. So it's massively effective in just getting the basics in place. And because of the effectiveness, it is required in various areas. So if you do any work with government, local or national, NHS, MOD, etc., you'll be asked for Cyber Essentials or possibly Cyber Essentials Plus. The two versions on there. So Cyber Essentials is a self-certification process. So it's there's a form you fill in to say, do you do this? And you say, yes, we do. This is how we do it. Provide a little bit of evidence to say that you've got a process in place. Once you've got that certificate, you've got the potential to have it audited to take it up to the next level, where an independent auditor confirms that what you've described is actually working and effective. And then you'll get a higher certification, which, like I mentioned, things like MOD and some finance companies require if you want to work with them. It covers a few sort of key areas. So it's looking at the basic sort of main focus points, which are on bottom left of this slide. So your boundary, firewalls and gateways of what's actually company data, making sure your devices are configured correctly, making sure people have the right access to do stuff. So you don't want people being able to change settings that they shouldn't have access to and becoming a threat. This is where things like phishing comes into it as well, because if you've got someone who's targeted by a phishing attack who has access to settings and information they shouldn't do, that leads to greater risk. And obviously the standard basics of malware protection, which everyone knows with your antivirus as we've gone into, and that's getting more and more advanced. And also make sure that everything is up to date. Key one that does get missed. I see this a lot with everybody, even family. People don't like doing updates. Pops up, you've got an update on your phone, an update on your PC. People just put it off. But updates are vital because that's where they've identified a risk and it needs to be fixed. So this, like I say, covers key areas, gets you a basic level of protection in place, and you build on top of there to improve and get better still. And yeah, key reasons of why would you want to do this? Like I mentioned, it is a government certification, so it is officially recognised, and it gives you a good message to go out with. So when you're talking to customers, looking to get a contract with somebody else, you've got evidence where you can show we take our Cyber Essential seriously, we have protection in place, your data is not at risk with us. It might be the case that you actually need it to go for that tender. Sometimes it comes with cyber insurance as well, where you have to have it in place. So obviously, definitely need to get it there so you can make more from your business. For a different angle is this getting a picture of your organization's security. So it's all well and good getting a certificate because you get told you need it, but the ideal situation obviously is that by running through this, you can see exactly how the security of your business looks and identify any risks, and then obviously work to mitigate those as best possible. And by doing this, you also have a potential of getting cyber insurance included with your certification, and currently you're able to get up to £100,000 cover through the process of becoming Cyber Essential certified, which is a nice extra. And that's all down to because of your reduced risk. Process-wise, obviously, SoConnect handle all of this, and it's fairly straightforward. So a few steps involved. Obviously, the initial thing when you're ready to go for it, we need to identify where your risks are, what needs to be done, go through that remediation, and make sure that any obvious gaps are fixed. Once you're at a point where you are confident of being compliant, or SoConnect are, it is filling in this survey to confirm each of these steps. And as a general sort of just, background to that, the layout of the questions is usually based around, you should have this in place, do you? What is it that you use and how do you ensure it's working? So it'll be questions around like, making sure your anti-malware is in place, or do you have a process to make sure people aren't using admin accounts when they shouldn't be? And even things around awareness training. So when it comes to, again, phishing, ideally it's recommended you should have something in place to educate people how to spot these things. Once you've filled in the survey, go through a certification body, CyberSmart in this case, which do the assessment, but also add on top of that. So with CyberSmart, you get ongoing compliance monitoring. So unlike your car MOT, where you do it once a year, and then when you come to your next year MOT, it's always a thing of what are they going to find, what unexpected costs are going to come in that I need to fix. CyberSmart prevents that by constantly monitoring and alerting to any issues, so you stay compliant throughout the year. And that's where this £100,000 cyber insurance part of it comes in, because you've got that continuous compliance message. And then, as I mentioned on the first slide, if you need to take it to the next level, you have Cyber Essentials Plus, where an audit is done to confirm that everything you've described is actually working, functional, and effective.
Thanks, Laurence. Lee, you let us know about multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, MFA, multi-factor authentication, is critical now for any accounts, not just your 365, just any account that has it, you should have it turned on. So whether it be your personal emails, your just banking, just anything needs MFA. If it has it. It's a simple, effective way to significantly enhance security and protect against evolving landscapes of AI-enhanced cyber threats. It does that by adds an extra layer of security, making it harder for AI and enhanced threats to gain unauthorized access. So it means if an AI is trying to hack into your account, even if they do have the right password, they still don't have the authentication device to get past that. So it's critical to have something in place. So even if the AI has the password, they still need the second form of authentication, which protects against AI-powered password cracking and ensures the person accessing the system is legitimate, not an AI-driven bot or malicious actor. Google's security team have said that MFA can prevent over 95% of bulk phishing attempts and over 75% of target attacks. And there's 3 MFA methods, which is knowledge. These are things you know, such as a password or a PIN. So when you log onto a PC, you can use your password, but you can also set up a PIN. Or you can also use things like biometrics, like fingerprints or voice recognition. That's another way of doing it. And another way is using a device, so like a badge or a smartphone or an MFA token device to approve logins. Yeah, so it's really critical to have that on everything that can be set up on.
Super. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a look at how we can combat malware. And so the way that we have to combat malware going forward is to use advanced solutions such as EDR, which stands for Endpoint Detection and Response, which is built with AI as part of its kind of core function. So this looks at patterns, movement, execution methods, and signatures on computers, so laptops and desktops and servers, that will result in AI performing a kind of automated response to certain threats. This can be like a true positive to sort of confirm that malware is detected. or it will flag anything that's suspicious by generating an alert to a team of security specialists for further analysis to determine whether this is true or false, which is most of the time. EDR can even take the appropriate steps to isolate the computer until an engineer can do further investigation or remediation. So if there's malware on a computer, EDR will prevent this from being able to spread and cause critical damage to infrastructure and potentially even cripple a business, which can happen quite quickly. So EDR can take the appropriate response without a human being having to do so. And that's the main point behind EDR, is it will act like a human being in its first response, but it's actually using artificial intelligence. And so AI's role in EDR, behavioral analytics, threat intelligence, automated response, and anomaly detection. So those are the four kind of key areas of EDR that you don't get in traditional antivirus, that you had you might have just now, or you might have several years ago. It's really an advanced way to deal with these new threats that we're seeing, and this is what the trend is advising that we need to get everybody aware of going forward. Another thing that we need to be aware of now that's going to be standard at some point going forward, and this, again, these are the trends that we see, to give a kind of advanced 360 protection, a full view of an environment. And so what I mean by an environment is all the laptops, desktops, mobile phones, your cloud applications. If you're running anything on-premise, servers, equipment, it's very difficult to manage each of these segments individually. So if you think of it as a kind of a pie chart, you've got laptops and you've got desktops and you've got servers and you've got your 365 or your G Suite, your accounting software, and all sorts of other wedges, if you like, in that pie that make up your kind of day-to-day operations. It's quite difficult to know or get as fast a view as possible if there is a successful breach, which is always a possibility in any environment, that you get a quick view to understand where the damage limitations is. And so what the SIM does, which is what we're talking about here, which stands for Security Information and Event Management, is to aggregate all these logs together in one place and look for specific events that would normally go undetected when a threat actor uses a sophisticated method. So many successful breaches, so into an environment, usually begin with a threat actor gaining access days, weeks, or even months prior to their action. So what we see often is somebody usually sits in an environment and actually looks to see what the kind of the chain of communication is, where the chain of authorization is, for them to get an understanding for where they need to take their next steps to potentially gain a successful monetary transaction somewhere. And so these event logs, which are generated on computers, your 365, your accounting package, and all the different systems and devices that you use within your environment day to day, usually tens of thousands of logs per day, can identify this when security analysts, and give them a very early warning if there is indeed a malicious activity present, and allowing kind of fast countermeasures to mitigate this. The SIM also gives us a full view of the IT environment across all surfaces to determine whether a threat actor has been successful. And then we can use forensic methods quickly to view how it happened and what areas were touched by that threat actor, which gives us the ability to perform quick and accurate responses. So it allows us to see what we need to do next in order to either stop a successful breach and so forth from there. Do you want to talk about the human challenge?
Yep. So humans make mistakes. Over 90% of successful data breaches involve human error. These can be things like their passwords used in multiple places. So they might have a password used on their 365 and it's somewhere else. Someone else is breached. They've got the password for 365. The other thing they can do is click on links. So they get an email, don't recognize it, they've clicked on a link, and it's infected their machine with malware. So that's the most likely things. 80% of people of data breaches involve phishing. Again, from AI created emails, they've emailed asking for money to be transferred somewhere, or links asking for passwords. We've seen that before. So compliance is essential for this. So that means regular user training. Which we use a product called USecure, which sends out monthly training courses for users, and also sends out phishing tests, basically. So users are trained on what to look for, what to expect, and are regularly kept up to date with any new developments or threats, basically. So the power of awareness training is essential to protect against sophisticated AI-driven attacks, which can often bypass. We've gone over this with AI-driven spear phishing and the importance of having MFA on as well. Employees trained to recognize the signs of an AI-driven attack, such as unusually personalized phishing emails. Voice manipulation can act as a vital first line of defense. Employees should learn to recognize malicious downloads. So again, if you've clicked on a link somewhere and it's downloaded something that you don't recognize where it's been downloaded from, or the file type, then Cyber Essentials has ways to stop this happening. So one of the parts of Cyber Essentials is to limit local admin access. So these kind of things can't be installed. So that's one thing for Cyber Essentials. And secure sensitive information. So training prevents sharing sensitive information, again, from phishing emails, from targeted breaches. Stops you sharing information through putting your simple things as putting your password in, to sharing client details for somebody you don't recognize. So it's about just keeping users trained to look to watch out for.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. So some of the key takeaways that we hope you've learned today: AI is here to stay and is going to play a significant part of cyber threats going forward, which we've all got to keep up to date with, and we've got to use modern software and modern methods to deal with that threat. We can't rely on traditional methods. We've got to keep up to date, and we've got to be aware and implement new solutions as these threats come about. We've got to try and stay ahead of these threats and counter them by adopting solutions such as EDR, the SIM and MFA across everything that you have in your environment to give you that resilience that you really need. Keep your employees informed with these threats and regular training. So this is really, really crucial as well, as obviously deploying the software, is to keep the people in your organizations up to date so that you've got a kind of good cybersecurity hygiene amongst your staff. Because the more resilient your staff are, the more resilient your business is going to be to deter these threats. And the last thing is to adopt a popular cyber framework such as Cyber Essentials, which is going to help your business achieve a very good cybersecurity posture and establish the foundations in your business if you don't already got it, or if you have it, and if you're on Cyber Essentials and you want to get to Plus, that will obviously enhance your business's resilience as well overall. So those are the main messages that we really want to let you know today. So we're going to open up the webinar to a Q&A. If anybody's got any questions on anything in particular or anything we've both talked about today, I'm going to kick off the Q&A with a question that I've got for Laurence of Brigantia, who's one of our cybersecurity partners, and let us know what we might anticipate next year when it comes to the revised Cyber Essentials compliance requirements for 2024? What we're going to be? What do you think we're going to be hearing?
So there's a few sort of indications of what might be coming next. One of the key ones is currently awareness training, which obviously we've just gone over there, is a recommendation. That's expected to start to shift towards becoming a requirement. So you'll be expected to make sure staff are aware of what to look out for, etc. And obviously, as we've seen, was it 83% of attacks in 2022 were phishing related? It's a massive key area because it doesn't matter how secure the rest of your equipment is. If a person allows a threat to go through, they're the weakest link. So that does seem to be coming. They'll become a key requirement. And some other updates around I'm sorry, things like the admin access control to make it easier to identify who's got what access and make sure people aren't able to do the wrong things if they do get that phishing email and click on something. If they don't have access to change that particular thing, it shouldn't be as much of a risk. So that's another key one that looks to be coming in.
Right, and there's not going to be really any changes you anticipate for kind of remote working or anything in the next year, or is that going to stay the same?
That seems to be looking like they've figured out what they want to do with that at the moment. Hasn't been any indications of any major changes. Obviously, it became a key focus, and there are specific controls in it. There might be some extra clarification around BYOD, bring your own device stuff, can always cause issues. But yeah, I think if anything changes, that'd be more of a tweaking and refinement of the existing stuff to make sure it's effective.
Okay, grand, super. Excellent. Okay, but don't really have many questions just now, which must mean that this was like super easy and all this was informative and everybody's understood everything, which is great. If there is any questions after this webinar, please feel free to reach out to us. Obviously, we're more than happy to speak to anyone, whether about their business and what we could potentially look at doing for them going forward. We are offering a free cyber audit. So what we'll be doing after this webinar is following up with an email for everybody that's attended, and we'll give you a copy of these slides, and you can digest that in your own time if you need to. And if there is any questions about any of this, we can happily answer those, and we'll give you obviously the instructions if you want to receive that free cybersecurity audit. Excellent. Just want to say a quick thanks to for everybody for attending. I appreciate everybody's time. Really appreciate that. I know everybody's busy. Thanks to Claire for putting this together, Claire Anderson, who's our marketing specialist or with at SoConnect, for Lee and for Laurence for joining us and giving their input today, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day.